Hello all you beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be diving into my reading journal and talking about the Mayfair Witches book series. Stay tuned. I don't know if any of you guys have checked out the AMC Mayfair Witches television series, but it is out now and I am enjoying the heck out of it. I actually had read this series way back when I was in high school. I loved all things Anne Rice, and vampires, witches, all of that supernatural stuff is my jam, and Anne Rice was the queen. Reading through this series, after I heard they were making the series for TV, I was super excited and grabbed up the series because it had been so long since I've read it. I just wanted to sort of refresh. So I dived in and man, was it enjoyable. I'm doing 2 pages on this one because there's so much came to mind when I was reading this series. So I am sticking with the black and red. That is kind of the vibe of this journal for the Alice in Wonderland deck of cards, because it works for the journal, but also because this series is dark. Blood and bloodlines is a predominant theme. Generations is a predominant theme. So that red as a backdrop, I think really soaks up that side of things. I've printed out each book in the series because I wanted to talk about how the Mayfair Witches play into the immortal universe of Anne Rice. And then I wanted to talk about each book because each book had some really interesting plots, and I don't know, just the way it hit me when I was reading it, I was excited. So the Mayfair Witches cross into her Vampire Chronicles series a little bit in, I think it's Blackwood Farm and maybe even Blood and Gold. There are a couple in the Vampire Chronicles that sort of cross over. The Talamasca definitely crosses over between both those series and plays a part in this universe. We start out the book with 2 people, these 2 girls that are separated opposite ends of the country. We have Dr. Rowan Fielding, who is over in San Francisco, who saves a man's life and feels a connection to him. And then way over in New Orleans, we have Deidre Mayfair, and we hear her story about how she was a young girl and she had these very controlling aunts who gave her no peace and no joy and no real explanation for why this presence in her life was evil, when this presence is the only thing that's ever been given her joy or comfort or love, and is a very meaningful presence in her life. But we get the impression that there's a sinister side there as well, and try though she might to fight the pull towards this being, she's drawn to him, and part of her really likes it while she's also has some concerns. The first book kind of follows Deidre's story, and then she has a daughter. The daughter is taken from her and is lost to her, and that is our Dr. Rowan Fielding, who has been raised completely outside of this magical family, outside of all of this in San Francisco, has no idea about her upbringing, has no idea about her connection to magic or to anyone. She doesn't know what her roots are, she doesn't know what her bloodline is, and doesn't really feel like she knows who she is. She's a doctor and doesn't know her own medical history, and that's sort of an issue for her. That's an insecurity for her. And then out of the blue, she gets a notice that her mother has died, and now suddenly she knows who she is. Here's family, here's ties, here's an inheritance, here's money, here's connection, here's property, here's all of this stuff that's deeply rooted in generations of Mayfairs. And as she comes into this home, into ownership of this home, there's a little more to it. It's not just a house, it's not just a home, it's not just a family. There is quite a significant legacy here, rooted in magic, in power, and in this being that is tied to her bloodline, tied to her now. And some interesting, shady things happen. It's really interesting the way Anne Rice really pulls you in and weaves this tale where you get to see how this being has been attached to this family, connected to this family for generations, and she is sort of the pinnacle of this connection. Watching it play out, finding out what it means, and having no idea what his plans are for her, and having to figure out what his intentions are. Very fascinating read, very interesting book. I loved it. I enjoyed it when I was younger. I loved it as an adult. I gave the first book a 5 out of 5 and the series overall a 4 out of 5. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I just found that the first book was really powerful and strong. The second book had a lot going on to it. There were some parts that didn't hook me quite as much as the first book. And then book 3 was again really, really strong, really interesting, and more characters, more lore, more history, more meat to the whole story, where it all comes together and we learn so much more about it. And the last book, the first and the last book really pulls on the emotions and tries to pull the reader into understanding everyone's perspective on this. And I love a story that isn't just, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys, and you root for the good guys and you hate the bad guys. And whenever there is a story where you empathize for all parties, like you can see it from everyone's perspective and you just sort of feel for everyone involved, that to me is so much richer, is so much more powerful of a story, and is so much more enticing of a narrative. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, if you're into witches and witchcraft, if you are into genealogy and history, if you are into crazy supernatural stuff happening, this could be your jam. It was totally my jam. I enjoyed the heck out of it. Again, second time reading it, and it's even better the second time. So that is the Mayfair Witches. You can check that out. And if you're at all interested in checking out the series, you can check that out as well. I would love to hear your thoughts on this book or on the series. Drop it down in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you're feeling about it. If you've read it, when you read it, how you read it, how you liked it. Tell me all the things, guys. Drop it in the comments below. If you enjoyed hearing my thoughts, smash that like button. If you're enjoying the content, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and we will see you next time. Take care, all you lovely people. Happy reading. See you next time.